Hello there, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be playing with the Play It Jewel palette from ColourPop. I follow somebody on Instagram and I will link her down below. Her name is Nuna, M-U-A. I always called her Nuna Mua until I realized what M-U-A stood for and I was like, oh, it's probably not Nuna Mua. Anyway, she does this beautiful eyeshadow looks on her arm. She uses all the cosmetic products, but she does them on her forearm, and she's really quite talented. And so I definitely recommend you check her out. I'll be adding to this video a picture of the look that has inspired my eyeshadow look today. So if you'd like to see how I created this using Play It Jewel from ColourPop, then don't go anywhere. And if you're new to my channel, hello and welcome. My name is Rachel, and I am a homeschooling stay-at-home mom who loves to play with colorful eyeshadow. I like all kinds of colorful eyeshadow related things, so if you want to see lots more colorful content on your timeline, you may want to consider liking and subscribing, because currently I'm uploading about 3 videos a week. Alright, so for today's video I'm going to be using the Play It Jewel palette from ColourPop, and I will also be just grabbing a black shadow from anywhere in my collection. I have customized this palette and I can link for you the video where I customize it. It is slightly different from the original stock palette. What I did was I took my ColourPop So Very Lovely palette and I took the shades that I like the most out of that and used them to replace the most neutral or redundant shades in this palette. So this one's a little bit more colorful than the original. Most of today's look is going to be using the original colors with I think probably one exception. But I will make a note of what, if you're following along, what you could do instead of using that one exception. But let's get started. For primer today, I'm going to use the NYX primer in the shade White. I tend to use this primer when I'm using ColourPop shadows because it's not the best primer when you have creasing shadows, and ColourPop doesn't crease too badly on me. So I'm just trying to use up the pot, but I probably won't buy it again because I have found other primers that work better overall. So for today's look, I want to do a halo eye, and I like to start a halo eye with a very light wash of a color, just so that I don't have naked skin between the two darkest colors. But I don't want to go too deep. I don't know. I think I'm going to take the shade Geode Life, which is original to this palette. This is just a fluffy, medium-sized blending brush. I'm going to dip in very, very light. And I can always build in more color, but I can't take it away if I put too much. So I'm just going to put Geode Life in my crease as an extremely light wash of pink. So the inspiration for today's look is Nuna, M-U-A, and she's really creative and she does some pretty neat looking stuff, but she's working on her arm, and there's a difference between drawing something out on a flat surface and putting it on your eye, which has depth and dimension and the roundness of the eyeball and things like that. So I think sometimes a particular shape might be easier to obtain or more flattering on the arm than in the actual eye. And so I will be sharing a picture of what I'm sort of trying to emulate today, but I'm not going to do such a defined black line in the crease out to the pointed cat eye shape. Today is going to be a little bit more of a flattering shape for my eye and also my preference, and it's probably going to end up looking a lot like hers, although I'm using different products. I generally like to do the inner and outer corners of a halo eye using a pretty small blending brush because I want the precision that it offers. I don't want to blow out the color too much. I would rather have to blend a little bit more than throw on too much and then try to control it. So I'm going to take this small blending brush and dip into the shade Surreal. And I'm going to put this as the inner and outer color. I'm going to deepen this color a little bit more, but Surreal will cover about a third of the lid, and leave the center third blank. I think Instagram is such a great place to get inspiration for a lot of different things in general. You have to be careful though, because it's easy to fall into the comparison trap, and I don't want to do that. But I try to follow accounts that are inspiring to me and don't make me feel bad about myself. And Nuna, M-U-A, is one of those accounts. Now you'll see in my inspiration picture that Nuna has a very clear black line and she does a pretty defined wing shape. I'm not going to do that because I don't think that it's the best style or shape for my eyes and my personal preference. So I'm just going to do my standard halo eye structure, which has that angled upward directional that I like to do. I just personally like that myself. So that's what I'll do today. I really need to clean my brushes. This one's stained green. I meant to clean them for the last 3 days and I kept forgetting and then being like, oh, I have time to do an eyeshadow look, and then using dirty brushes. All right, I'm gonna take a detailed crease brush from e.l.f. This one is loose and pretty fanned, and I'm gonna grab the shade Geode Life again, but again, very, very lightly. This is the one that I used. I just drug my brush through a totally different color. This is the one that I used as a transition shade, so I'm dipping in really lightly and I'm gonna help blend out this dark berry tone just on the edges. This is a really beautiful berry color. Honestly, I don't feel like I even need more product. Like, I don't think I need to grab the Geode Life shade. I can totally do this as simply a blending technique. Now don't worry if it's a little bit messy on the edges, because all of that's going to get covered up. Now I'm going to take a black from anywhere in my collection. The one that I happened to grab was the Paradise Fallen palette from Ace Beauté. There's a nice black in here. It's called Blackout. A lot of times blacks in palettes, especially somewhat nicer brands, they'll have interesting blacks. For example, I think in the Norns palette from Uden's Eye there's something called Colorful Black, and like it's just oftentimes the blacks will have reflects in them or tiny little flecks of different colors, so you have to be aware of that. You don't want to, like for today's eye look, I wouldn't want to grab a black that had blue reflect. I think that Colorful Black shade in the Norns palette is actually like sort of a bronze hint, like it's black, but it's got little flecks of bronze, I think. But the point is, be careful about the black that you choose. You just want a plain black matte or something for this look. If it has a little purple or pink in it, that's fine, but if it had orange or yellow or green in it, I wouldn't want it for this look. So I'm taking that small blending brush and dipping into my black shadow, and I want to keep this quite small. I'm going to place it on the very inner corner and deepen up this berry purple color, and then I'm going to do the same thing, place the color in my outer corner and deepen it up as well. Now if I'm following Nuna's inspiration, you know, her look, then these are going to be quite dark. I don't want it to totally cover my lid, so I want it to be in a small space, but I do want it to be concentrated within that small space. Because hers was like black, pinky, purpley, berry, sparkle, black. Alright, this is where we are. Now, I did take a little bit more of that, the darker purple shade, and I just put it on top of the black so I could get a deeper color, and then bring the purple to the center of the eye. Now you can see that most of the center of my eye is now filled in. That's not a problem, because what we'll do next is take a tiny bit of concealer. I'm just going to put it on the back of my hand, just a little bit, don't need much. And I'm just going to take a flat brush and dip into the concealer, and then put that on the very center of my lid to kind of create just a lighter foundation for the shimmer that I'll place next. I'm not going to put any time into really carving it out, because I don't want anything very, very cleanly cut. I just want to illuminate that section a little bit so that the shimmer that I place on top really has a chance to stand out away from the darker colors around it. Okay, so now it's time for shimmer. If you're following along and you want to just stay within the Play It Jewel palette, I would take my finger and dip into the shade Treasure Box, which is this pretty purple shimmer. It's got a very slight pinky hint to it, but it's not as purple as the Majesty purple, which is more of a royal rich purple. Since I've customized my palette and I have a few other options, I'm going to take the shade Collective, which is originally from the So Very Lovely palette, and it's just a more pink version of that. You can see them next to each other. They're not super, super different. There's just, you know, one's more purple and one's more pink. So my look's going to be a little bit more pink than if you're following along and you grab the Treasure Box shimmer, but they're both really pretty. So I'm going to take my shimmer and put it on top of where I've placed this concealer. Now, if you wanted to brighten it up even more and create an even lighter base to put the shimmer onto, then just take a white shadow or a skin tone shadow and put it on top of where you've placed the concealer. I'm going to skip that step, but I'm taking my shimmer and placing it right on top of that spotlight area. The biggest consideration was that the shimmer was a different enough color and the lighter enough tone from the dark shades that I put. I wanted a pink shimmer, but I didn't have anything within this palette that was very, very light toned, so even this pink is more of a medium toned shimmer, like medium depth. And so I needed to make sure that my inner and inner and outer corners were dark enough to contrast the shimmer that I'm placing in the center. So with my finger, I'm just putting that down and like patting it around. Again, I'm not super concerned with having it cut neatly or anything. I like more of a softened look. I think that's pretty. Now, with my pinky finger, I'm gonna dip into the shade Luster in this palette, and this is more of a creamy white shimmer, and I'm gonna put that just in the very, very center, at the apex of the round of my eyeball, you know, right in the center. Not gonna blend it all into the pink here and there. I'm just tapping in the very center. And you can see that adds a whole new level and layer of shine and depth. Now I've got very light, medium, dark. I always find that ColourPop shimmers apply quite nicely with my finger. So that's most of it. Now we're going to drop down to the lower lash line. If you want, you can clean up with a concealer under your eyes, and we'll get right to that. Now I have to say, I kind of want to put a different color on my lower lash line. I'm a little undecided about that. Generally when I do a halo eye like this, I just carry the same colors down, so I would do the darker colors here and then the shimmer in the center, which is an element that I love. I think it's so pretty and interesting. What do I want to do? I think I'm going to take the Geode Life shade, the matte pink that we used. I'm going to run that on my entire lower lash line, and then I'll decide from there. I think I want like a pink foundation or base for the lower lash line. Oh, and I'm using a smudger brush for this. You can see I haven't gone in really heavy with that. I just wanted like a thinner line, nothing crazy. That's one of the reasons I like the smudger brush for that job. If I were using a more flared out blending brush, I would have gotten a much more blown out color, but I wanted it to stay kind of close to the lash line. Just a little hint of pink under there. Now I think I'll take a small blending brush and go back into that, that shimmery pearlescent shade, Luster. Go back into Luster. Now you may have noticed that I didn't spray the shimmer when I placed it on my lid, but I'm going to spray Luster. And this I want to bring this, okay, I want to start Luster in the inner corner and bring it all the way about halfway, so that Luster lines up with the center of the lid, and see how that looks. Yeah, that's fine. Now I'm going to take that smudger brush and go back into Surreal. I'm sorry, I can't see without my glasses. The palette is so far away. It's on my lap. It's like 2 feet from my face. I'm going to go back into Surreal and deepen up just the outer corner to carry it up and reflect what's happening in the upper outer corner, but just out here. I'm not going to use it on the inner corner. And to finish off the look, I'm going to take the color Boots from ColourPop and the Crim Gel Liner. This is just a hot pink, and I'll line my waterline. Okay, so that's about everything for the eye look. I'm going to go off camera, add some liner, finish everything up, and then I'll be back to show you the end result. Alright guys, here's the finished look. I love how it turned out. I love the lower lash line, especially that I've got this sparkle from here over to here, and then it gets a little smoky. It's so pretty. On my lips, I am wearing 2 different lip shimmers from Burt's Bees. First I put on this shade Watermelon, and I realized it was a little bit too pink, and I wanted something that kind of worked with these more yellowy, neutral-ish tones in my shirt. So then on top of that, I put the shade Caramel, which brought in a tiny bit more brown. Anyway, here's the look. I hope that I did Nuna MUA justice and her beautiful inspiration picture. The lower lash line was totally up to me because her picture didn't have a lower lash line, but I think it turned out really pretty. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed the video and the look. Let me know in the comments below if you followed the tutorial yourself. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more, and until we see each other again, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye! I'm gonna skip that step because I don't want to do it. Ooh, just stabbed myself. Ah! Warm tea?
Yeah.
Sure. Go work on your math. I'll bring it up to you.